this unsettling footage, a woman decides to carry out a ritual called Debbie Blue. While she's in the middle of performing it, her camera picks up something unexpected, a mysterious figure standing just behind her. Pay close attention to what unfolds.
Blue baby, baby blue, 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 blue baby, baby blue. ¿Qué pasó, Regina? Ya lo hiciste. Ya terminé. Regina, no puedo mover los brazos.
Debo, tíralo rápido.
No puedo, Regina.
Rápido, tíralo, Debo, si no se va a perder.
Regina, no.
Debo, tirar.
As the ritual gets underway, a dark silhouette materializes, seemingly hovering right over her shoulder. Her friend spots the figure and immediately warns her, sending the tension in the room through the roof. Now, as scary as this footage appears, whether or not it's genuine is still up for debate. So what do you think? Is this the real deal?
Baby, baby blue, blue 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 baby, baby blue. ¿Qué pasó, Regina?
Ya lo hiciste.
Ya terminé. Regina, no puedo mover los brazos.
Debo, tíralo rápido.
No puedo, Regina.
Rápido, tíralo, Debo, si no se va a perder.
Regina, no.
Debo, tíralo.
On September the 10th, 2025, a CCTV camera mounted at a highway interchange recorded an event that numerous pedestrians had witnessed firsthand but couldn't begin to explain. Whatever had emerged from that stretch of road left people genuinely terrified. At roughly 2:20 in the afternoon, pedestrians crossing the Concordia Bridge Highway in Mexico City found themselves suddenly engulfed in a strange fog that appeared to materialize out of thin air. Nobody could figure out where it had come from or why people were frantically fleeing the area, but once word got out that a gas tanker had overturned on a curved ramp and released a massive toxic cloud, the situation started to make more sense, almost. While digging into this incident, I came across a surprisingly large number of comments from eyewitnesses claiming they spotted silhouettes and shadowy figures moving through the smoke. So even though the fog itself had been explained, the strange faces and eerie shapes people reported seeing within it remained a whole other question. Now, none of these clips appear to actually show the so-called flying silhouettes that witnesses described, but one piece of footage manages to be deeply unsettling in its own right. On May 25th, 2026, nearly a full year after the gas incident, a motorcyclist rides along that very same stretch of highway where the tanker spill occurred. Worth noting, the reason this overpass looks unusually dark is because shortly after the gas leak, a spark ignited and engulfed the entire area in flames. Here's what the camera picked up. The motorcyclist who uploaded this wasn't initially sure whether he'd imagined what he heard, but reviewing the dashcam footage made it undeniable. A gut-wrenching scream is clearly audible somewhere nearby. The origin isn't easy to pin down, but something else stands out even more. It wasn't until viewers began screenshotting a specific frame and flooding the comments with it that this clip took on an even darker dimension. Right around the timestamp below, this is what was frozen in place. Woman found herself driving down a desolate road alongside a cemetery when something caught her eye, a strange glowing light drifting in the distance. Shaken and completely baffled by what she was witnessing, she grabbed her phone and immediately started filming. The eerie light continued its slow, steady movement, never once pausing.
You see his face clearly. Right there.
Then she pushed in for a closer look, and that's the moment she spotted what appeared to be a ghostly silhouette gliding through the pitch black. What made it truly unsettling was the nature of its movement, deliberate, almost like something making its way toward a destination. So where exactly do you think it was headed? A mother and her young daughter Cora had been living in their newly purchased home for just 5 months when unsettling things began to unfold. Night after night, Cora would burst into her mother's room in tears, insisting that an unfamiliar figure was somewhere inside the house.
I'm scared.
The sheer intensity of her sobbing made it impossible to dismiss. This little girl had clearly seen something that shook her to her core. Doing her best to be a calming presence, the mother would try to soothe her. Then one particular night, she walked into Cora's room to find her daughter frozen in place, eyes locked onto the window in absolute dread. What the camera captured in that moment left her mother completely speechless.
Mythical. Mythical. It's okay. There's the vent right there, baby. See? The vent pushes the door. You're fine, okay? You big girl? Don't be scared, just remember. Baby Lenny's here, mommy's here. We're all gonna be together in the same house. It's gonna be okay. Let's go to bed. What's wrong, Cora? Sweetie, what are you afraid of? You're scaring me, honey. I don't see anything.
A visibly shaken Cora stood motionless as the window blinds snapped shut by themselves, without warning. The mother quickly ushered her daughter out of the room, offering the reassurance that air pressure was likely behind the movement, and nothing more sinister. Yet everything about the situation pointed to something invisible and unexplained making its presence known. Shortly after, Cora described seeing a tall girl somewhere in the house. Skeptics in the comments were quick to push back, arguing that a nearby fan or a draft could easily explain the blinds closing on their own, but the mother was firm, stating there were no fans on and no wind that night. So the question remains, who or what was really there with Cora? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you subscribe so you never miss another video like this one. On September 20th, 2020, a father was filming his sons during a playful wrestling session when his camera accidentally picked up something that deeply unsettled him. Everything appeared completely ordinary at first. The boys were laughing, roughhousing, having a great time. Dad had his phone out, intending to capture.
Alright, y'all, so I'm sitting here watching TV, and there's some strange noises that keep coming out of the hallway. So I told you we're going to document everything, so we're going to investigate this together. There's some banging noises coming up in here. Yeah, Toby, what the fuck is that? Well,
the moment and share it with his wife, who wasn't home at the time. But mid-play, one of the kids suddenly loses focus, distracted by something just out of frame.
what the fuck is happening?
It only lasts a split second, but it's enough to give his brother a clear advantage in their little scuffle. The clip wraps up shortly after that. The father didn't think twice about what he'd filmed.
Who's here?
Nobody. I thought I imagined the knock, but I guess you heard it too.
I did.
Ain't nobody here. Finish your schoolwork.
Okay.
But something had been captured without him realizing it. In fact, it wasn't until he forwarded the video to his wife that either of them noticed anything strange at all. Judge for yourself what's lurking in the background.
Right. They just told me it's stolen. Oh, okay. Good dog. All right. Find out from the homeowner. Make sure they're good. You know, obviously the front of the property got damaged pretty bad. Yeah. Hey, how you doing, ma'am? I'm good. Definitely talked to the sheriff's department. Were you sitting out here on this afternoon?
I was in, well, I seen a taxi come by.
Yes, ma'am.
It was going really slow. So I got up and looked out the window, and then I saw blue lights, and this car going that way, and he went off onto the ground.
All right, Lev, come get your basket.
This bag on it. And then these guys just jumped out and took off that way.
The father notices his son staring at something off to the side and swings the camera in that direction, but sees nothing unusual. Yet the footage itself tells a different story. In the corner of the room, something appears to materialize, resembling a face with its mouth stretched wide open.
Guys, I've been sitting on the couch working today because I slept wrong or some shit, and the toilet just flushed on its own. Toby's pretty freaked out. We're gonna check this shit out for a second. I flipped the camera. Ah! What the fuck?
Almost like it's letting out a silent scream. Then, the moment the camera pans back to that same spot, what
How the fuck did that happen? Shit's getting weird.
ever was there just a moment before has completely vanished. This has led the father and a huge number of his social media followers to believe he unknowingly filmed a ghost. But what's your take? Could this actually be a spirit caught on camera? Let me, Ace Beckstead and his wife Rachel had been spending some time at her grandfather's house. Sadly, the old man had only passed away about a month prior. Late one night, as the couple were winding down and getting ready to sleep, something deeply unsettling occurred.
How you doing? You okay?
I don't know.
So, we were just going to bed and we're not... Let me just show you. Like, we've literally had to put the bag up against the door because we're not sure. And like, we're literally just...
Out of nowhere, the bedroom door started violently rattling, as though someone on the other side was shaking it, yet no one was there, and there wasn't any kind of draft that could explain it. The whole thing left Chase and Rachel badly shaken, and they made the call to pack up and head back to their own home. But just as they were gathering their things, something even more alarming unfolded. Pay close attention to what happens next.
Okay, so we're leaving. We got all of our stuff packed. Oh. What? Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, we're out of here. I'm leaving, like...
Right as Chase is getting ready to walk out, the door suddenly slams shut by itself and starts rattling all over again, this time with far more intensity than before. He didn't need any more convincing. He grabbed what he could and got out of there. Some viewers think this was the spirit of Rachel's grandfather, still tethered to the home he once lived in. Others, however, believe something far more sinister had moved into the empty property during the time it sat unoccupied. As for Chase and Rachel themselves, they still have no explanation for what they witnessed. This next clip was filmed in 2014 by a woman who was spending the night at her grandmother's place. The only reason she started recording was because her grandmother's dog, Coco, suddenly began behaving in a very unusual way. The dog kept gazing up toward the ceiling, clearly locked onto something that neither of them could see. With a growing sense of unease, she pulled out her phone and hit record, and here's what the camera picked up.
Did that boy text you yet?
No, look. Coco can tell something's wrong. Do you see that?
Oh, the ribbon.
Coco. Coco. What you doing down here?
Bye, Coco.
Bye, Coco. What the f...
She noticed that Coco was fixated on some ribbons dangling from the ceiling fan, and one of them appears to be moving despite the window being completely closed. Shortly after, Coco suddenly darts under the bed, as though desperately trying to escape from something, and then bolts out of the room entirely, and just seconds after the dog disappears, the bed they were sitting on starts shaking violently. Their first thought was that it might be an earthquake, but when they stood up, they realized nothing else in the room was moving. It was only the bed. Dogs and other animals are widely thought to perceive things that are beyond human senses, and whatever triggered Coco's reaction that night was clearly no ordinary disturbance. So what's your take on this? What do you think had Coco so frightened? Drop your thoughts in the comments. After calling in the police and even getting a doctor involved, a man named Alex decided to take his paranormal experience to some online subreddits to hear what people thought. While working in an old warehouse built back in the 1960s, he kept noticing unsettling things happening around him, accompanied by the persistent feeling that something unwanted was sharing the space with him. Then one day, with nobody else present, the building's security camera finally captured out evidence of exactly what he'd been dealing with. Just beyond the door, a faint shadowy figure appeared, then shot quickly to the right before moving back toward the door again. As Alex approached, the door suddenly swung shut on its own. Scrubbing through the footage repeatedly, he could make out the dark shape becoming increasingly distinct, but what nobody could explain was the force behind that closing door. Alex describes it as an extremely heavy, old door that takes real effort to shut, and despite his attempts to find a rational explanation, he never managed to replicate it. It seems whatever is in there has figured out how to operate the doors, and as unsettling as all of this is, it really does feel like further confirmation that whatever ghosts are up to these days, they desperately need to find themselves a new hobby. Mrs. Tennyson is a nighttime caregiver based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, who tends to elderly patients in their homes. According to her, one of the women under her care had recently begun talking in her sleep, almost as though she was carrying on a full conversation with another person in the room. Then, during one particular night shift, Mrs. Tennyson picks up on some strange noises coming from the woman's bedroom. Worried, she pulls up the security footage to check that everything is all right. What she finds on that recording, though, is enough to make her skin crawl.
Every night I'm at work, I be thinking I'm tripping. But you gotta watch this video, y'all. You see that move under the bed? Like I know for a fact this close to my client's house. I be seeing, you see it keep moving, I'm like right there under the bed. It's moving back and forth. You see it? It's ghost in my client's house. Look under her bed. They come out and go back. Now she in bed asleep. She ain't moved an ounce. But do you see how I keep coming out, going back in? This is no joke.
Just beside the bed, something seems to glide across the floor. And here's the thing, there are no animals living in that house that could account for it. Once Mrs. Tennyson posted the clip online, many viewers began to wonder whether the elderly woman had been paid a visit by someone she'd already lost. Mrs. Tennyson later confirmed that the woman's husband had passed away some time before. So is there a perfectly logical explanation for what the camera picked up? Or did this woman receive a late-night visit from a familiar soul? As always, I'll leave that one entirely in your hands. After visiting his father's burial site, a man made his way back through the stillness of the graveyard. Everything felt peaceful, until the silence was broken by the sound of a woman in tears.
Damn, man. People gotta learn to slow down. Lucky they didn't hit none of these tombstones. Real lucky. Hello? You alright? You okay? What the hell? What the f is going on here? There ain't nobody there.
The weeping started faint, then gradually intensified, sending a cold wave of dread through his entire body. Rattled and disoriented, he scanned his surroundings trying to pinpoint the source, but there was nobody in sight as he picked up his pace toward the car. Then, just like that, the crying cut off completely. What followed was a silence that felt deeply wrong. It seemed for just a moment as though someone had been positioned right behind his vehicle, completely overcome with grief. His pulse spiked as he spun around, fully expecting to find a person standing there. But in a matter of seconds, whatever he had sensed simply disappeared without explanation. The man was left rooted to the spot, too stunned to move. Even now, he's convinced that what he encountered that day was the tormented spirit of a woman who still wanders among the graves. The origin of this next clip remains a total mystery, as it has been endlessly re-uploaded and spread across every corner of the internet. The unsettling footage captures a man facing some seriously frightening paranormal activity unfolding right inside his own home. He claims he kept hearing loud, inexplicable knocking on his bedroom door that robbed him of sleep throughout the entire night. Exhausted and shaken to his core, he eventually grabbed his camera to go and document whatever was waiting for him on the other side.
¿Qué pasa, boludo? Estoy en mi pieza queriendo dormir, boludo, y me toca la puerta toda la noche, amigo. Son como las 1 de la mañana. No, amigo, ¿qué mierda es eso, boludo? ¿Qué mierda sos, la concha de tu madre? Boludo, no. Amigo, no hay nadie, boludo. No. De hoy se está escuchando esa mierda. ¿Qué? No, boludo, no. No. No, amigo, no. No, amigo, de nuevo esto. Pero qué mierda, boludo.
Tell me you caught that too. The footage begins with the man standing in his completely darkened dining area. The moment he flips the light on, you can plainly make out a shadowy figure peering at him from the kitchen doorway. It disappears into the darkness almost instantly, He musters up the courage to follow it into the kitchen, yet there is absolutely nobody there. Worth noting, the kitchen is extremely cramped, with 0 places for anyone to conceal themselves. Then, without warning, a paper towel roll tumbles off the counter and hits the dining room floor. He searches the space thoroughly, but still turns up nothing. Next, a set of wind chimes hanging near the door begins swaying violently on their own, as though something unseen had just brushed straight through them. But nothing tops what unfolds in the final seconds. He reaches out and pulls back the kitchen curtain to peer outside, and there in the glass's reflection, a solid dark figure is standing right behind him. He whips around immediately, but once again, the space is completely vacant. So just what exactly is haunting this man's home? Plenty of children grow up talking to imaginary friends. It's a perfectly typical phase of childhood, and most parents brush it off without a second thought. But every now and then, things take a turn that's harder to dismiss. This TikTok was uploaded on January 27th, 2026 by a man named Nicholas Farrier. In the footage, he approaches his young daughter, who appears to be mid-conversation with someone no one else can see. Initially, it comes across as a sweet, unremarkable moment. Then everything shifts.
A la vuelta de mi casa, bueno, mi hija se ve que tiene un amigo invisible porque ustedes miren, váyale, decirle que traiga el coche. Decirle que traiga el coche, decirle. Le dice que traiga el coche. ¡Dale el coche!
The little girl turns and calls out to her imaginary friend, asking it to push a stroller that's sitting on the sidewalk nearby. Within seconds, that stroller starts rolling. Nobody is visibly making contact with it. It just moves forward on its own, as though something actually heard her and responded. Moments like this tend to fuel the unsettling idea that what children call imaginary friends might occasionally be something else entirely. That said, rational explanations do exist. The sidewalk could have had a gentle slope, allowing the stroller to drift on its own, or something just outside the frame might have given it a nudge. There's also the possibility the whole thing was set up in advance to line up with what the girl was saying. What keeps people coming back to this clip is the precision of that timing. She makes the request, and almost instantly, on September 20th, 2020, a father was filming his sons during a playful wrestling session when his camera accidentally picked up something that deeply unsettled him. Everything appeared completely ordinary at first. The boys were laughing, roughhousing, having a great time. Dad had his phone out, intending to capture the moment and share it with his wife, who wasn't home at the time. But mid-play, one of the kids suddenly loses focus, distracted by something just out of frame. It only lasts a split second, but it's enough to give his brother a clear advantage in their little scuffle. The clip wraps up shortly after that. The father didn't think twice about what he'd filmed, but something had been captured without him realizing it. In fact, it wasn't until he forwarded the video to his wife that either of them noticed anything strange at all. Judge for yourself what's lurking in the background.
A ver.
The father notices his son staring at something off to the side and swings the camera in that direction, but sees nothing unusual. Yet the footage itself tells a different story. In the corner of the room, something appears to materialize, resembling a face with its mouth stretched wide open, almost like it's letting out a silent scream. Then, the moment the camera pans back to that same spot, whatever was there just a moment before has completely vanished. This has led the father and a huge number of his social media followers to believe he unknowingly filmed a ghost. But what's your take? Could this actually be a spirit caught on camera? Let me. Started as a peaceful evening took a horrifying turn for one homeowner when something disturbing unfolded right at his front door. There was no warning, just an ordinary night that suddenly became something far darker. Caught on the security camera, is a pale, unsettling hand snaking its way through the mail slot, slowly stretching toward the door's lock mechanism. The movement is calculated and menacing, as though whoever is on the other side is actively trying to let themselves in. Because the homeowner was monitoring the live feed, he doesn't hesitate for a second. He charges toward the door, snatches up a baseball bat, and delivers a blow that sends the hand retreating immediately. To this day, the questions linger. Whose hand was it, and what exactly were they after? A brazen burglar, or something even more chilling? One thing is certain, that homeowner will never look at his front door the same way again. This footage goes back to 2019 and was uploaded by a woman who claims she was in the middle of getting ready for work one morning when she noticed her dog acting extremely unusual, almost as though it was frightened by something unseen. She grabbed her phone and hit record. See for yourself what unfolded.
Okay, so Bailey, come here. She's acting really strange today. I don't know what's going on with her. What is it, Baze? I don't see anything. Bailey? What? What is she looking at? Bailey? What was that? Did you just hear that? Bailey? She keeps looking over here. I don't know what her deal is, but something's not right. God, what is that noise? Bailey, what is it? What the f? Oh my God, did that chair just move? Oh my God.
The dog kept its gaze locked on a nearby chair, as though something was sitting right there. Then, without any explanation, the chair started moving on its own in a deeply unsettling manner. The woman was so overwhelmed with terror that she bolted straight out of the room. There's a widely held belief that animals can detect things completely invisible to the human eye, and many people are now convinced that this home has a paranormal presence inside it. Staff at one particular office say that working there has grown increasingly unbearable over the past several months, thanks to a relentless string of strange incidents reported throughout the building. In their words, the place may be home to some kind of mysterious entity that tends to make itself known whenever only a small number of employees are still around, though the security system had already documented some unsettling moments well before any of this. But recently, things took a far more disturbing direction. On the night of June 7th, 2020, 2 employees were wrapping up their shift and getting ready to head home when the surveillance camera caught something that's hard to explain away. With no obvious cause, a chair begins to rotate slowly by itself, moving in a way that feels completely unnatural. The moment the 2 women notice what's going on, they freeze and stare at it briefly before bolting out of the room entirely. Seconds later, both of them can be spotted rushing down the corridor, clearly shaken, doing everything they can to get out of that building fast. The staff say occurrences like this are nothing new for them, particularly during late-night hours, or whenever the building is nearly empty. As far as they're concerned, this clip is just one more piece of evidence that something genuinely haunts that office. But what's your take? Is there a rational explanation behind what we're seeing? Or could something invisible really be occupying that space alongside them? This clip was originally shared on Reddit by a user going by Unknown Truth. According to him, his friend's wife had a deeply unsettling encounter while she stepped outside to take care of some laundry. The whole thing was recorded by their Ring doorbell camera. She picks up on some kind of strange voice, and it's not broadcasting through the Ring device's speaker. She moves in closer to investigate, and it becomes clear the sound is actually coming from inside the wall, right beside her. I went ahead and enhanced the audio on this one, so give it a careful listen. Whatever that voice is, it sounds like it's desperately calling out for help. The woman is so shaken by the experience that she heads straight back inside and dials the police.
I looked around, I didn't see anybody out on the road or any cars or anything. So I went back to my Ring video to make sure I wasn't just creatively hearing something.
I can hear somebody saying something like that.
Officers arrived and thoroughly searched the entire property, but found absolutely nobody. Not inside the walls, not anywhere on the premises. So what exactly is this mysterious, sourceless voice that appears to be pleading for assistance? What do you make of that? On a Saturday afternoon, a group of house cleaners arrived at a property with no idea they were about to experience something deeply unsettling. The homeowner had recently inherited the place from someone with a severe hoarding problem. One of the cleaners caught everything on camera, and this footage was recorded just seconds before the entire crew broke into screams. According to Katie, one of the cleaners on the job, the house looked nothing like the photos the owner had sent over beforehand.
Flies?
What Katie had no way of knowing was that while she was filming, something like this would unfold. See for yourself.
Oh my God! It actually comes to him. You need to have someone else. They don't go downstairs. What have you gotten us into? Oh my God!
While Katie documents the state of the house, a children's ride-on toy begins moving completely on its own, and it doesn't just drift randomly. It heads directly toward the cleaning crew, as if it knows exactly where they are. As if the overwhelming clutter wasn't already enough to put everyone on edge, this occurs. Wow, understandably, the whole crew was rattled. At first, they figured a battery-powered mechanism might explain the movement, so they went back and reviewed the footage to settle the question. But what they noticed while re-watching sent a chill through all of them. The toy appears to be made entirely of plastic, with no visible battery compartment or internal components whatsoever. So, if there was no power source driving it, what exactly made it move? And more importantly, what caused it to travel specifically in the direction of the group? It was almost as if something knew right where they were standing. Katie brought her concerns to the owner, but ultimately decided she wouldn't be going back to that house, for more than one reason. Then, a few days later, the owner contacted her again.
Of the story. A few hours later, the homeowner sends us another video, and after discussing everything with her, we told her that we would be willing to come back, but only under 3 conditions. The first being that we needed to come up with a new estimate, one that properly reflected the state of the house, like for how actually cluttered, dirty, and disgusting it actually was. Second, that the Thomas the Tank Engine toy would absolutely not be in the house, that we did not want to be in the house with it. And third, that she examine the Thomas the Tank Engine toys and take photos and provide us with photos to show us that the train toy is just plastic, that there's no motor, there's no battery, there's no remote, that there's nothing there to show.
On her second visit, this is what happened.
Come here, come see.
Get out. We have to burn that thing. And then... That is so scary.
Terrifying. Once again, the ride-on toy somehow starts moving by itself, only this time, it's out in the backyard. Strange as that is, there's something else Katie captured during her second day at the property, something that left her even more unsettled than before. She explains that she had been recording a particular area at night because of certain photos the owner had previously shared with her. Take a close look at what the camera picked up.
Wow.
The pictures she originally sent us when we were doing the first estimate, there was a picture of a photo album. And in the album, there's a picture of a child. I'm obviously going to post the pictures above, the face blurred, of course, but you can see the kid on it.
Look carefully when I take the video of the mantle. There are these blue bowls stacked up, and in those bowls are some Polaroid pictures. And if you look really closely, you can see that in the pictures is the Thomas train that we keep seeing move. And on this Thomas train is a boy. He looks to be like around 9 or so. And I don't know anything about him. I don't know who he is. The owner didn't tell us anything about him. But he's definitely riding that Thomas train that we keep seeing move. So we don't know anything about this boy. You know, we don't know if he still lives here, this was a long time ago, if he's still alive for that matter. And given what we've seen, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that maybe he isn't.
Katie believes the toy most likely belonged to the young boy in one of the photos, and that suspicion deepened considerably when a late-night phone call connected to the whole situation made her stomach turn. Listen to this closely.
She started messaging me directly.
Hello.
Hi, this is Katie.
Yes.
Hey, I was just calling because I had some questions about something that we found in your house.
Well, that is very personal.
I know, and
that was my nephew.
That was the.
Yes. So, you know, after you sent me the video, you know, I'm wondering too, because that was his train. And
that was his train?
Yes. And so when you told me that, and then I saw what you were talking about, I don't know what to think. I mean, I don't know how to take it, but, you know, from, heaven, or, I don't know, some kind of supernatural thing. I really don't know what to think.
But you do feel like that it's your nephew moving the train?
Well, you know, anything can happen. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's possible that is what's happening. It's possible. And also, I'm sorry, but thank you for cleaning my house. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, of course. That's what we do.
Okay, you did a good job.
Thank
you
you
so much.
No, of course.
Okay, have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
As it turns out, the homeowner's nephew had passed away. It's unclear whether he died in this specific house, but given that this was the property he lived in before the current owner took over, it's not hard to understand why his belongings are still scattered throughout. To make everything even stranger, the owner also has CCTV footage she recorded a few weeks after moving in. At one point, a mirror on the property can be seen swinging open on its own before somehow closing again by itself. Between that mirror and all the other strange activity documented here, could it be that the owner's nephew has somehow remained present in this place? After all, nearly every incident seems to center around children's toys. As always though, I'll leave it up to you to draw your own conclusions. For now, this footage continues to be something nobody has been able to fully explain. Hitting the road with your closest friends is one of those experiences that can genuinely change your life. There's something truly irreplaceable about discovering new places alongside the people who matter most to you. But what if one of those shared moments turned into something that kept you up at night? That's reportedly what happened to TikTok user Stinky Keeney, who uploaded this unsettling clip to her account on September 6, 2020. According to her account, she and her group were snapping shots on a disposable film camera during a trip to Mexico, and one of those developed photos came back with something on it that nobody could explain. If you look carefully at the area just behind one of the girls, you can make out what seems to be a pale, shadowy figure lurking in the background. It's subtle at first, but once your eyes land on it, it's almost impossible to look away. What really sells the creepiness is just how wrong the figure looks compared to everything else in the frame. I'll be honest, it gives me strong Nikki vibes from the horror film Obsession, even though that's clearly not what this is. Of course, not everybody is ready to jump to conclusions. Some people in the comments think it could just be another guest who went unnoticed when the shutter clicked. Either way, it's the kind of image that demands a double take. So what's your theory? Who or what was lurking behind those girls? And what was it doing there? Drop your thoughts down below. Deputy Ben Malik was making his rounds when something caught his eye. A peculiar figure standing roadside, seemingly igniting a flame. He brought his vehicle to a stop to get a closer look, and that's when he noticed something deeply unsettling. Her face appeared to be on fire. He found himself questioning whether he'd stumbled onto some sort of ceremonial act. The woman was taken into custody not long after, yet what actually unfolded during that strange encounter still hasn't been fully explained. The following video was recorded at night by a man inside his home, a dimly lit bedroom where his family had already settled in. Children on the bed, the woman trying to keep things calm when something none of them could place began filtering in from somewhere else in the house. The boy was frightened enough to beg his father not to leave. Watch.
Tranquilo, güey. Tranquilo, campeón. Tranquilo, ahorita voy a ver qué es.
No, papá, no salgas.
No hay nada, hijo, no hay nada. Ah, cabrón. ¿Qué quieres? ¿Qué quieres? Uy, te escucha ahí, se escucha.
When the man opens that bedroom door, a long, mournful wailing sound floods in from the darkness beyond, high-pitched, shifting in pitch like a lament, something caught between human and something else entirely. He shouts into the dark, asking what it wants, and the sound slowly fades as he moves downstairs to investigate, finding nothing. For viewers familiar with Latin American folklore, that sound carries an immediate and chilling association. La Llorona, the weeping woman, a figure rooted deeply in Mexican and broader Latin American tradition, described as the spirit of a grieving mother who wanders at night, wailing for her lost children. The legend has existed for centuries, and the sound in this clip, mournful, shifting, coming from no visible source, is exactly the kind of thing people in these communities have associated with her for generations. Others think it could be something more generalized, a distressed spirit, or a residual haunting attached to the building itself. Skeptics would point to the possibility of an animal, a stray cat or dog, outside producing a distressed cry that echoed strangely through the walls, though the family's reaction, the raw fear in the boy's voice, makes that explanation harder to sit with. Another night in the same home, a static night vision security camera captured this. Take a look. A white rocking chair in the corner of the room begins to move on its own, slowly at first, then building to a full, forceful rhythm, rocking steadily for over 2 minutes, with nothing and no one near it. And around the 1-minute mark, a sudden burst of light flashes from the adjacent kitchen doorway, on and off in under a second, with no visible source. The chair doesn't even pause. Some viewers think a rocking chair moving on its own is one of the oldest and most personal symbols in paranormal cases, associated with the presence of the deceased, a grandmother, a mother, someone who used to sit there. Others aren't willing to go that far, noting that fishing line or a hidden mechanism could produce exactly that motion in low-resolution night vision. What's harder to explain away is the combination, the wailing in the dark, the child begging his father to stay, and then an empty room where something keeps rocking through the night. So what do you think is in that house? Quick thing before we continue, all of our videos are now available on Spotify too, so if that's somewhere you already find yourself late at night, every compilation we've made is waiting there for you. Whichever way you'd rather watch, the link's in the description. Now back to the video. The following footage was recorded with a baby monitor, high in a corner of a bedroom set up for a newborn. A woman with long blonde hair can be seen retrieving her swaddled baby from an adjoining room and carefully placing the infant into the co-sleeper beside her bed, bending over to adjust the swaddle and settle the baby down. Completely ordinary, completely routine. Watch. She's used this ball hundreds of times and never had this happen before. The second clip was captured during the day, this time from a low-angle stationary camera in a hallway, possibly a pet cam placed near the floor. Watch.
Wash your hands.
Listen carefully to the very beginning. Many viewers believe the recording captures what sounds like a man's voice speaking from somewhere inside the house. According to the woman who shared the clip, she was simply on her way to wash her hands when the camera picked up the sound. She also made one important point. Although she was home with her children, there were no adult men inside the house. Naturally, some people believe the voice is nothing more than distorted background audio. Security cameras often compress sound in unusual ways, and televisions, neighbors, or even conversations from outside can sometimes seem much closer than they actually are. Others hear something far more unsettling. Electronic voice phenomena, better known as EVP, is a phenomenon discussed in paranormal circles where faint voices are believed to appear on recordings despite not being clearly audible at the time. Whether these sounds are genuine anomalies, audio artifacts, or simply the brain trying to recognize speech in random noise, remains highly debated. Taken separately, neither clip proves anything, but together, an object moving where it never had before, and an unexplained voice inside a house where no man was present. It's easy to understand why the family started paying much closer attention to what their cameras were capturing. Now in this next clip, a young man has been lying awake in his bedroom listening to something he can't explain. A rhythmic, persistent knocking coming from somewhere inside his house, loud enough that he grabs his phone in the middle of the night to document it, because he says every time he tries to tell someone, they don't believe him. The night is cold, cold enough that you can see his breath the moment he steps outside, and he's been hearing this same sound since earlier that morning. He checks on his dog, walks through the house, and eventually makes his way out into the dark backyard, pointing his phone toward an exterior wall where he insists the knocking is coming from. He's clearly shaken. His voice is unsteady as he talks to the camera, and you can hear the edge in it when he says he can't stop hearing it from his room. He pans slowly toward the barbecue grill at the back of the yard, stepping further into the darkness. Watch.
Capto fantasma en video.
Chicos, yo voy a filmar esto porque después me dicen que es mentira. Ustedes escuchan ese ruido, ¿no? Porque... Pará, no puede ser. Quiero que vean la hora que es de la mañana. Un frío afuera. Ay, de acá viene el ruido, desde hoy lo estoy escuchando. Es un frío ahora. Miren, acá está el asador, el pasillo. ¡Ey! ¿Qué carajo, boludo? Quiero que vean. Hay frío casi. Porque posta no se dejan de escuchar esos ruidos desde mi pieza, boludo. Nah.
Just above and behind the grill, a translucent, whitish, vaporous shape materializes in the air, faint but distinct against the dark background, with a silhouette that's close enough to humanoid to stop you cold. He shouts and runs toward it, and the shape dissolves as he closes the distance. He sweeps the camera around the empty space where it was. Nothing there. Then the camera finds the child's swing set, standing motionless on the lawn, and it starts to move. A slow sway, then a full back and forth motion, as if something invisible has just settled into the seat. His breathing is the only sound until a sudden sharp bang hits from somewhere off camera, and the footage cuts. Some viewers think the vapor could be a cold air breath plume caught by the phone camera at a distance. A reasonable explanation given how visible his own breath was. Others aren't so sure, pointing out that the shape appeared well above the grill and held a form that's hard to explain away as ambient condensation. And the swing didn't stop when he ran toward the first figure. It started after. So what exactly was still out there with him? Now in this next clip, a man is pulling into his own driveway, a completely ordinary afternoon, when something across the yard stops him cold. He's got his phone out and he's already filming as he notices the detached shed on the property, its blue double doors hanging wide open. He hadn't left them that way. He starts narrating out loud, the way you do when your brain is trying to make sense of something before it fully registers what's wrong. Watch.
I'm pulling into the house, grab the phone, look at that windows wide open door. What the? No. There's some there. That is 100% a person in my shed. Yo, that's a person in my shed. That is a person in my shed. Hey. Dude, okay. That's a school. That's somebody in the shed. Yo! Hey, who was in here? 100% saw that! Yo! Hey! And I saw something on the ring camera. I see movement. Who's up here? Hey, come on. Is somebody up here? Hey. Come on, man. Please. I will 100% call the police. I'm not kidding. Hey there. Yo. Come on, man. I'm calling the police. If somebody is in here, the police will be here in 5 minutes. Do you hear me? And you Hey, come on. You're done. I'm telling you. Okay. All right. Look, that's fine.
The left side of that shed door swings shut, hard, with a slam that cuts him off mid-sentence. What follows is roughly a minute and a half of shaky, breathless footage as he sprints across the lawn, pushes the door open, and starts searching the cluttered interior, shouting into corners and up toward a dark, square opening in the ceiling where a wooden ladder leads to an attic. An object then crashes down from that opening. loud, sudden, completely unprompted. And if you watch that last few seconds carefully, just before he bolts, a pair of bright, glowing blue eyes stare down at him from the darkness of the attic. That's when he runs. Now, a shed door slamming in wind is one thing. A door that's been standing wide open for long enough to notice suddenly swinging shut with force is a harder sell. Some viewers are convinced there's an animal up in that attic, a large cat or a raccoon with reflective tapetum, which could explain the eye shine. Others aren't so sure, pointing out the force behind that initial slam and the way the object drops, almost deliberately. He called the police after this. Whatever was up there, he wasn't willing to find out alone. This next clip was recorded by a woman staying at an Airbnb with her kids, a family trip that turned unsettling in the middle of the night. She's already in bed, TV on, when something pulls her out of the room. She says she heard a voice call for her, a child's voice saying "Mom," and since her kids are supposed to be asleep, she grabs her phone and starts walking. She checks the bedroom downstairs first, where her teenage daughter and son are in their bunks with the dog, and neither of them called her. She heads up to the living room next, where a third kid, another teenage boy, is fast asleep on the couch, completely out. She's standing at the top of the stairs, satisfied nobody's up, when it happens again. Watch.
I'm staying in this Airbnb.
Who says I'm judging you? You are.
Oh my god. I've been hearing noises this whole time. And I just heard somebody say "Mom." My kids are supposed to be asleep. So... Guys, did y'all call me? Did y'all say "Mom"? I heard "Mom," dude. I'm gonna check on John. I could have sworn I heard somebody say "Mom." He's locked down. TV's not even on. Shut the dude. What? Did y'all come out and don't lie?
No, we did not.
I'm gonna have to sleep with y'all.
Why?
Something's going on. Okay, yeah, no. I'm done.
Still trying to make sense of it, she returns to her children and asks them directly if anyone had gotten up or called for her. They all insist they never left their rooms, yet after she shared the footage, some viewers noticed something else. Several claimed they could make out what appeared to be a small childlike figure hiding. If that's what they really saw, it couldn't have been any of her children. They had all been accounted for before, during, and after the voice was heard. Many paranormal enthusiasts believe this kind of encounter resembles what's known as a mimic, an entity said to imitate familiar voices in an attempt to draw someone toward a particular location. Reports often involve a loved one calling for help, hearing a child's voice in an empty house, or someone answering from a room that turns out to be vacant. Whether it was an oddly timed coincidence, a child hidden somewhere the camera never caught, or something using a familiar voice to get her attention. One thing is certain. After that second call, she wasn't the only one listening. This next clip was filmed at night inside a couple's living room. A woman with long brown hair sitting up on the couch, laughing while pulling a prank on her boyfriend, who's half asleep under a blanket, telling her to stop. She's holding her phone to her ear, completely unaware that something else might be in the room with them. Watch.
Get away from me. Hello? Fucking, what am I doing? I'm trying to fucking sleep. Stop, dude. Stop, dude. I'm trying, bro.
You're trying what?
At first, nothing seems out of place, but when the footage is zoomed in on the mirror hanging behind the couple, a hand with unnaturally long, thin fingers and elongated nails. It isn't next to either of them, and if it really is a hand, it doesn't seem to belong to anyone visible in the room. Some viewers immediately suggested it could simply be an optical illusion, a combination of reflections, furniture, or the woman's own hand caught at an unusual angle. Mirrors are notorious for creating misleading images, especially in low light. Others weren't convinced. Throughout paranormal folklore, mirrors have often been described as symbolic thresholds, objects believed by some traditions to blur the boundary between the physical world and something beyond it. Reports of unexplained faces, hands, or figures appearing only in reflections have been shared for generations, though none have ever been conclusively verified. Whether this was a trick of perspective, a perfectly timed reflection, or something that only revealed itself in the mirror, one question has kept viewers replaying the footage. If that hand wasn't theirs, whose was it? The following video was captured by a man's camcorder about 12 years ago, and according to him, that moment completely changed how he viewed reality, opening him up to the unsettling possibility that the line between the living and whatever exists beyond it may not be as clear as we assume. At the time, he lived along Tetagouche River Road, a place that, while quiet on the surface, had long been surrounded by uneasy local stories, including reports of shadowy figures appearing near the tree line at dusk, unexplained sounds echoing through the woods late at night, and the persistent feeling among residents that certain parts of the area were being watched even when no one was there. While these accounts were often brushed off as exaggerations or imagination, they were consistent enough to make people cautious, especially after dark. On a Tuesday afternoon, however, he experienced something that didn't feel like a story anymore, because with his camcorder running, he unintentionally recorded something that would later leave him with more questions than answers. Watch. At first, the footage appears completely normal, showing a quiet outdoor setting with nothing immediately drawing attention. But as you continue watching closely, a figure can be seen standing in the distance, positioned in a way that suggests it had been there the entire time without being noticed. What makes this moment unsettling is not just the presence of the figure, but the way it remains completely still before suddenly disappearing within seconds, without any visible movement, transition, or attempt to leave the frame in a natural way. Moments like this are difficult to explain because there is no clear indication of someone walking away, hiding, or blending into the surroundings, which raises questions about whether what was captured was even a person to begin with. Some believe this could be connected to the history of the area, possibly a residual presence tied to past events, appearing briefly as part of an imprint left behind in the environment. Even now, years later, what he captured that afternoon continues to stand as one of those moments that feels too clear to dismiss, and like many cases tied to places with lingering stories, it remains unresolved. This next video captures a terrifying late-night experience inside a man's home, around 2 a.m., a time when everything is supposed to be quiet, predictable, and still. On this particular night, however, a loud, sudden bang echoes through the house, startling his dog, Frechel, and immediately pulling him out of whatever sense of normalcy he had left. For the past month, he has been dealing with a series of strange and increasingly difficult-to-ignore occurrences, including disembodied voices that seem to come from no clear direction, and moments where he feels something disturbingly close to him, as though someone or something is breathing right near his neck. While he had tried to rationalize these experiences at first, questioning his own perception, and wondering if stress or imagination could be playing a role, the consistency of these moments had already begun to wear down that explanation. So when he hears the bang that night, he grabs his phone, determined to finally capture proof that what he has been experiencing is real. Watch.
Hola. Ay, chinga tu madre. No mames.
As he moves toward the source of the noise, the camera begins to pick up something that immediately stands out, a pair of small hands appearing from a position where no one should be, their size and shape resembling that of a child. However, as he gets closer, the face that comes into view does not match the innocence suggested by those hands. That moment was enough for him to stop questioning everything he had experienced before. For now, he has chosen to leave the house temporarily, putting some distance between himself and whatever might still be inside, while sharing his experience in the hope that someone, somewhere, might be able to offer an explanation or even help him understand what he's dealing with. The following clip is about a man named Daniel Thompson, who occasionally returns to spend a few days at the family home where he and his sister grew up, a place that, despite the familiarity it should bring, has always left him with an uneasy feeling. One of the reasons he points to is his mother's unusual hobby, because over time she filled the house with a wide range of antiques, dolls, puppets, and other strange items collected from flea markets, thrift stores, and estate sales, many of which came with unknown histories. While most of these objects blended into the background, one in particular always stood out to him, a dollhouse that sat in his sister's room and consistently gave him a feeling he couldn't shake. Eventually, the discomfort became strong enough that they decided to move the dollhouse out of the room entirely, hoping that changing its location would ease whatever tension they felt around it. Watch what happened next.
Okay, it's official. I'm getting rid of this. The many figurines are moving. Like what?
After Daniel shared this footage, many people began to suggest that the issue might not have been the dollhouse itself, but rather the space it was moved into, because it had been placed in a storage room, an area that was already enclosed, quiet, and rarely used, which some believe could amplify or even trigger certain kinds of activity. Taking that into account, they decided to move the dollhouse back into his sister's room, expecting that returning it to its original place might settle whatever was happening. But instead, something else began. Watch. Guys. Do you hear that? Those are the tapping noises I was talking about. Knocking at the door. Hello? Daniel explains that almost every time he walks past that room now, he hears a faint knocking sound coming from inside. Subtle but consistent enough to stand out, and for reasons he can't fully explain, he is convinced that the sound is coming directly from the dollhouse itself, rather than anywhere else in the room. At that point, the situation becomes harder to pin down, because if the activity followed the object, then it suggests the dollhouse may be the source, but if moving it into the storage room intensified things, then the environment may have played a role as well, leaving open the possibility that both the object and the space are somehow connected. So what exactly is going on here? You be the judge. Now this next clip was recorded at Pidhurtsky Castle, a historic site that has gained a reputation not only for its architecture, but also for the unsettling stories that have surrounded it for decades. Built in the 17th century, the castle has long been associated with reports of paranormal activity, with visitors and locals alike claiming to have experienced unexplained footsteps, sudden drops in temperature, and sightings of a mysterious figure often described as a woman dressed entirely in white. Some legends trace this presence back to tragic events tied to the castle's past, suggesting that whatever is being seen may be connected to unresolved history lingering within its walls. In this video, a man and his friends decide to explore the castle for themselves, but throughout their time inside, they begin to notice something that immediately puts them on edge, a repeated feeling that someone is moving through the rooms. Instead of dismissing it, they decide to try something more deliberate. When they got outside, they positioned their camera to capture a full view of the castle's windows, and caught this on camera.
Турецкий замок. Дивіться, яка краса. Супер. Такої з архітектури нема. Ух, ніфіга собі. Андріана! Андріана! Що?
In the footage, a figure in white can be seen moving across one of the windows. After this video was posted, it didn't take long for others who had visited the castle to come forward with their own experiences, sharing stories of seeing similar figures, hearing unexplained sounds, or feeling an overwhelming sense that they were not alone while inside. So if you've ever been to this place, drop a comment. The following video shows what one family has been dealing with ever since they casually decided to play with a Ouija board, an experience that, at the time, felt harmless and almost entertaining, but quickly became something they now associate with the beginning of a series of disturbing events inside their home. Now, if you were to ask the wife why she is constantly cleaning, rearranging, and trying to keep everything in order, it is not simply out of habit, but because of this.
Hell no. Stop with me. Stop with me right now. What the? Baby! Leave us alone!
In the footage, a bottle that had been on the table suddenly falls to the floor in a way that doesn't resemble an accidental slip, but instead looks as though it was lifted and dropped. Almost immediately after, a loud banging sound echoes from the direction of the door. Then the door closes on its own, followed by a bowl that had been sitting on the table beginning to slide before eventually falling. Situations like this often lead to speculation about whether the Ouija board may have played a role in triggering or inviting whatever is now present, especially since many believe that such tools are not just games, but methods of communication that, if not handled carefully, can open the door to something unknown. For now, the family is left trying to live around something they don't understand, holding on to routines and small comforts while sharing their experience in the hope that someone might recognize what they're dealing with. But for now, this remains unsolved. This next video was recorded inside the historic Snyder House, a location that has quietly built a reputation among urban explorers and paranormal enthusiasts for the kind of activity that doesn't always make itself obvious at first, but tends to linger in ways that are difficult to ignore. The house is often described as abandoned yet strangely preserved, with certain rooms still containing old furniture, mirrors, and personal items that give the unsettling impression that life there may have stopped suddenly, rather than naturally fading over time. In this video, a group of explorers enters the Snyder House, hoping to document its condition and possibly capture something unusual. But what they record ends up raising more questions than they expected. Watch. If you look closely, you'll see a figure. But what makes the moment particularly unsettling is how quickly that figure disappears. Moments like this tend to stand out in places like the Snyder House because they align with the kinds of reports that have been shared over time. Now in this next clip, popular Midwest ghost hunter Ian continues his one in one of the most feared and talked about locations in Indiana, the Blackford County Jail, hoping to finally understand why so many unexplained incidents are still being reported there. For years, people have reported sightings of what they describe as a little person moving in the basement. Some believe it's the spirit of a former inmate, trapped and unable to leave, but others strongly disagree. They claim what's down there isn't paranormal at all. They believe it's something alive that hides and watches. Watch.
I kind of don't like having my back turned to those. Hello? Is there anybody down here? Well, they say that this hole is a portal that spirits can enter. If this is indeed a portal to the spirit world, could you come up out of that hole? Float upward towards me. Little person? Are you down here? Are there any prisoners down here? This is where they kept the worst of the worst. Oh.
After hearing that sound, Ian immediately freezes, listening carefully, trying to determine where it came from. Going down there alone didn't sound like a good idea, especially knowing the stories. So instead, Ian decided to wait, hoping to catch even the slightest movement that could explain what he just heard. And then, after a while, he sees this.
Whoa, 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 what did I just see? What did I just see? I just seen something on the ground. Holy crap. It didn't look like a person though.
For a brief moment, something appears small and low to the ground. Determined to finally uncover the truth, he slowly makes his way deeper into the basement, stepping toward the exact area where the figure had appeared. Watch.
Another corner. Oh God. Oh my God. It is so scary down here. Oh. I don't see anything over here. Creepy crawl space. Oh. I am not going in there. No. Little person? Are you in there? What if it snatches my arm? I hear you. He's gotta be down here. Oh. Rock just got thrown at me. Suddenly,
rocks are thrown in his direction, almost like a warning meant to stop him from going any further. And that realization alone is enough to make him think that he may not be alone in that basement after all. The following video was captured by a man who had already grown used to being woken up in the middle of the night by things he couldn't explain, to the point where it had become a routine, something he no longer questioned immediately, but instead documented, almost as if he knew that whatever was happening would eventually show itself on camera. Before this night, he had been dealing with faint knocks at odd hours, objects shifting slightly out of place, and moments where he would wake up feeling like someone had just been standing over him, watching, only for the room to be completely empty when he fully opened his eyes. Over time, it became harder to ignore, especially when he started hearing low sounds at night, scratching, dragging, and at times something that almost resembled breathing, close enough to feel real, but never visible long enough to confirm. So when it happened again that night, when a loud sound suddenly pulled him out of sleep, he reached for his phone, hoping to finally catch something clear enough to explain it all. What he captured instead only made things worse. Watch. The door creaks open first, slow and deliberate, with no one near it. Then a small black creature lunges onto the bed directly at him, letting out a shriek that doesn't sound like anything domestic, followed by a deep growl. Many would immediately label something like this as a demonic presence, and in many reported cases, it's said that when something like this begins to feel comfortable within a space, when it's no longer hiding or limiting itself to small signs, it can escalate even further, sometimes attempting to influence or even possess the person living there. In this next clip, a man in Chihuahua, Mexico, had been running a studio space he'd been using for work. A cluttered, horror-decorated room filled with vintage masks, a porcelain doll, and a large, ornate mirror. He'd already lost a week's worth of security footage because the cloud trial on his camera system expired before he could save anything locally. Then, on a Tuesday night, while he was away recovering from an eye injury, his security camera triggered a movement alert at 9:10 p.m. He ignored it at first. It wasn't until Thursday that he finally came back to check, and that's when things got harder to dismiss. Watch. The security camera, the kind set to tracking mode, begins panning slowly across the empty room on its own, as if following something invisible. Then, a door that was slightly ajar in the background swings fully shut with deliberate, unhurried force. The doll by your right also moved without anyone in sight touching it. When the man arrives with his handheld camera that same night, he walks to a corner of the floor near the desk, a floor he says he'd left spotless, and points the light downward. Have a look.
Un poco. Yo había dejado limpio. Y hay unas huellas ahí. Esos días hizo bastante frío, hizo mucho frío. Bueno, para que alguien anduviera descalzo, lo dudo mucho. Para la gente de aquí de Chihuahua sabe que no se puede andar uno descalzo en la calle. Y luego miren. Yo calzo del 9. Ese pie es enorme, está muy grande. No es mi pie. O sea, la verdad sí está muy grande el pie. Le digo, oí pasos.
A large, dirty, barefoot print on the floor. He holds his own shoe next to it for comparison. He wears a size 9, and the print is noticeably bigger, both in length and width. There was no sign of forced entry, so from that point on, the debate around what's causing all of this only intensified. Some people are convinced the activity is tied to a large mirror he brought into the studio. According to him, the strange occurrences began almost immediately after the mirror arrived. In paranormal belief, mirrors are often considered portals, reflective surfaces believed to thin the boundary between spaces. Many cultures warn that mirrors can act as gateways, allowing entities to observe, attach, or even pass through. If that's the case here, it could explain the sense of being watched, the movement being tracked, and the idea that something is present without fully manifesting. But others believe the mirror isn't the source, it's the doll. Dolls act as vessels, not necessarily haunted at first, but capable of housing or attracting a presence over time. The fact that the doll moves during the footage and that disturbances seem more physical, doors slamming, objects shifting, leads many to think the doll is what's anchoring whatever is inside that studio. And then there are those who think it isn't one or the other, but both. Some believe the mirror may have opened the door, and the doll became the place where whatever came through decided to stay. Until more updates are shared, this remains unsolved. Now in this next clip, a couple decides to do something many people would strongly advise against. Sitting together in a darkened room, candles flickering around them as they place their hands on a Ouija board and ask whatever might be listening to make itself known. Watch. Before this moment, they had already experienced strange activity in their old apartment, which was located right next to a hospital, a detail that, for many people, immediately raises questions, because places like that are often associated with intense emotional energy, loss, and unresolved moments that some believe can linger. They reported hearing unexplained sounds, feeling watched, and noticing subtle disturbances they couldn't explain, which led them to wonder if something might have attached itself to them. So when they moved into their new place, instead of leaving it behind, they made a decision that would change everything, using the Ouija board to find out if whatever they had experienced before had followed them into this new home. Watch.
Anybody there? Is anybody there? Can you give us a sign? Can you give us a sign? Oh my god. There's no way. There's no way. Dude, there's nobody in here. There's nobody in here. What is going on? Oh.
Some viewers believe this confirms their fear, that something from their old apartment may have stayed with them, something that didn't leave when they moved. But others argue something far more unsettling, that it wasn't about something following them at all, but about what they may have invited in at that exact moment by choosing to use the board. And that's where the situation takes a more serious turn. Because people familiar with how these sessions are traditionally handled were quick to point out a critical mistake, something that might seem small but carries heavy implications in paranormal belief. The fact that they removed their hands from the planchette without properly closing the session or saying goodbye. According to those beliefs, that final step isn't optional. It's meant to close whatever line of communication has been opened by skipping it. Many believe they didn't just stop the session, they left it unfinished, leaving what some describe as an open doorway, something that doesn't simply close on its own. On another day, they decided to do it again.
Is anybody there? Is anybody there?
No.
We have to get out. We have to get out. Moments like this are often used as examples when people talk about the risks tied to using a Ouija board, not because of what is guaranteed to happen, but because of what can happen when boundaries aren't understood or respected. The idea isn't just that something might respond, but that once that line is opened, it may not always be clear what exactly is responding, or whether it intends to leave when you're done, and that's the part many people overlook. Because it's not always about whether something followed them from before. Sometimes it's about what they may have invited in, without fully understanding how to send it back. This next video was recorded by a man who has been documenting what he describes as an increasingly aggressive haunting inside his home, and by the time this footage begins, he's already terrified before he even reaches the bottom of the stairs. It started with smaller disturbances, noises in the night, his dog refusing to behave normally downstairs, a growing sense that whatever was in the house was no longer passive. He blames the spirits for recent bad luck in his life, including a car accident, and on this particular night, he grabs his phone and heads downstairs because something has set his dog off again. Watch.
Nouvelle vidéo, on entend du bruit, mon chien s'est énervé d'un coup. Devient catastrophique. Les esprits deviennent agressifs. Oui, j'arrive, ma fille. Et pire, c'est qu'il me porte la poisse. Là, il y a 2 jours, les gendarmes m'ont rentré dans la voiture. Elle était devant chez moi, mais la voiture est épave. Beaucoup de chance. Beaucoup de chance. Et l'excuse, c'est le keuf avait une poussière dans l'œil. Vous y croyez, vous? Ben, moi, malheureusement... Oh, putain, c'est quoi ce bordel encore, putain. Ça fait que ça, c'est incroyable. On essaie de trouver des solutions, mais il n'y a rien qui marche. Cherche, mon chien, cherche. Il y a quelque chose? Oh, putain. Ça devient bizarre. What the... Oh, putain, ça m'a piqué. Ah. Putain, c'est quoi ça? Mais c'est quoi ce délire? C'est quoi ce délire, putain de merde? Oh là là. Putain, c'est quoi ce délire? Putain de merde. Ça devient n'importe quoi ce baraque. Si vous avez des idées, des conseils. Ah, des idées, des conseils, je suis preneur. Honnêtement, ça... Oh putain, c'était quoi ça? Oh fuck off. Oh sa mère. C'était quoi ça, putain? C'était quoi cette merde? Fille. Ah, putain. Ah, fille, qu'est-ce qui t'arrive? Non. Non. Mais non. C'est quoi ce délire? Mais c'est quoi ce délire, putain de ça? C'est quoi ce voix de sa mère, putain? Sa mère.
He claims to feel fingers pressing along his spine, then shouts out in pain as the camera lurches violently, as if something struck him. Then it got worse. The television switches on by itself, blasting loud, dramatic music into the dark room, and his dog stands near the glass door, with her tail tucked, too frightened to move. He uses the remote to shut it off, but within minutes, it turns back on, this time changing channels and raising its own volume, while the remote sits on the floor in front of it. Some viewers immediately pointed to poltergeist activity, a term used to describe a type of disturbance associated with physical force and object manipulation rather than a simple haunting. But the man's response to all of this is what makes the second clip even more unsettling, because rather than leave, he keeps confronting it. Watch.
Prochaine vidéo, j'ai décidé de me battre contre cette chose malveillante.
Horrible. Ça fait un moment que j'ai pas fait de vidéo, mais là ça empire. De jour en jour. Des marques, des griffes. C'est insupportable. Ah, c'est toi, tu me fais peur. Alors, il y a quelqu'un? Putain, c'est insupportable. Putain. Putain, c'est quoi cette merde encore? Non, mais c'est pas possible.
He descends the same staircase again, speaking in a tense, hushed voice, saying things are getting worse day by day. Marks, scratches, unbearable. His dog startles him in the dark. Then a loud bang erupts from somewhere off camera. The camera whips sideways, and from inside a closed toy chest, a child's musical melody begins playing on its own. He opens the lid. The music cuts off the moment he slams it shut. For some viewers, a toy activating inside a sealed chest with no one near it lands differently than anything electronic. It feels deliberate, like something announcing itself. And if that's true, the question isn't whether it's still down there, it's whether it ever planned to stop. Now in this next clip, a man is riding his motorcycle alone down a dark, isolated road at night, heading to a wedding, when something on the roadside stops him cold. At that hour, there's usually nothing to see except the road ahead, so when something appears in the distance, it immediately stands out. Watch.
Fuck, man. Oh, fuck, bastard! Oh, shit! Oh, shit, man! Oh, shit, man! Oh!
As his headlight stretches forward, it catches the outline of a figure walking along the road, tall, pale, and unnaturally still in the way it carries itself, not reacting to the approaching motorcycle, not stepping aside, just continuing forward, like it doesn't even acknowledge him being there. And that's where it starts to feel wrong. Some viewers believe what he encountered could have been a ghost, the kind often described in roadside sightings, figures that appear briefly, usually at night, sometimes tied to past accidents or tragedies, known to show up without warning and disappear just as quickly, leaving the person who saw them questioning what they just experienced. So if you were riding down that same road, alone, and that figure appeared in your headlights, would you slow down and try to understand what you're looking at? Or would you keep going and not look back? Now, in this next video, a man claims that every single night when he returns to his home, something is already there waiting for him, and he decides to prove it. The building itself looks abandoned in stretches, a barrack-style structure at the end of a dark gravel path, lit only by a single street lamp overhead. One night, he hears footsteps like someone running around the house. Shortly after, this happens.
what that was on this camera here. I can watch down the hallway.
Some viewers believe this kind of activity points directly to a poltergeist, but until more updates are shared, this remains unsolved. The following video was recorded by a team of paranormal investigators in Carson City as they explored one of the state's oldest operating hotels, the St. Charles Hotel. This place has a long and unsettling history. Over the years, there have been multiple documented deaths within the building, including reports of self-harm and unexplained incidents that have left certain rooms with a reputation no guest wants to stay in for long. Staff and visitors have shared stories of footsteps in empty hallways, voices behind closed doors, and sudden temperature drops or spikes that seem to come out of nowhere. Some even claim that certain rooms feel overwhelmingly heavy, like stepping into a space where something hasn't fully moved on. So when investigators Patrick and Jason arrived, they already knew they might experience something unusual, but they didn't expect it to happen almost immediately. Watch.
Door. Whoa. What did it say? 198, 313. Whew.
Near logical creature.
313 degrees.
Can you make this box go off some more?
82.
Over here.
What the hell? Dude, there was somebody, 503. Dude, I went back in here and it went to 503. If I should leave, can you make this go to just really, really hot? If I should get out of here, 500, this went to 500, 150, 590. Did you get it?
I'm sure I did.
Do you know? Oh, it's so hot in 224.
172.
Dude, it is
179.
Are you right here? Yeah. No, it's like holding my hand right now. It's like hot right around my hand.
It's super hot right here.
And it's holding there. Something flashed on the SLS too. Can you make that go even higher? Make it. Yeah. It smells like it's on fire. Yeah. 151. Are you on fire?
39.
Is it going back down?
40. 111. 172. 151. Yeah, it hasn't stuck this like this ever.
No.
Inside the room, the temperature begins to fluctuate rapidly, rising and falling in a way that doesn't match normal environmental changes. And as time goes on, the energy in the space feels different, heavier, and more intense. It reaches a point where even they decide they've had enough. But just before they left, they capture something neither of them can explain. Watch closely.
There appears to still be quite a bit of activity inside the St. Charles Hotel, and even some guests that never checked out.
Right after a strange light anomaly appears, something else happens. A white, shadow-like figure can be seen quickly moving and then disappearing into the bathroom. And this is where things start to get really unsettling. People think it could be tied to the building's past, possibly the spirit of someone who once occupied that very room, still lingering, still moving through familiar spaces. But there's another theory that's been circulating, that the light anomaly may have been a kind of manifestation point, a moment where whatever was there gathered enough energy to briefly take form before disappearing again. So what do you think that was? A trick of the light, or something that didn't want to be seen for long?